In this video, I'm going to teach you how to read the Bible. I hope that by the end of this, you'll learn how to read and study the Bible better by developing the essential Bible study skills I've developed along my Bible study journey. And so we're in Psalm chapter 32, if I can talk. Psalm chapter 32, starting in verse 10. Hopefully I can give you tips along the way. And if you didn't know, we have a completely free 40-day Bible study program, a 27-day, and an 11-day. Yes, I said free. It's linked in the description below. It goes in depth into learning how to read the Bible at your own pace, whenever you want. Go check that out. Verse 10 of Psalm 32, it says, "Many are the sorrows of the wicked, but steadfast love surrounds the one who trusts in the Lord." Now, as we do with every single one of these Bible study workshops or walkthroughs, what I want you to ask is this: how does verse 10 relate to verse 9? That means we need to read verse 9 and know what verse 9 is saying to make sense of verse 10, all right? He says, David has already talked about instructing the godly in the way they should go, and he says, don't be like a horse or mule that lacks understanding. To do what? Well, a horse or a mule lacks understanding, or the reasoning, right, or the appropriate nature to effectively stay near to you. It needs to be curbed with a bit and bridle to do that. And then verse 10, it transitions, "Many are the sorrows of the wicked." Now, this seems like a completely disconnected thought. So if you don't see, this is what I do when I read the Bible. If you don't see any immediate connection between verse 9 and 10, read a little farther backwards, right? Go back to the rest of chapter 32 and think about how this verse, which we should sum up in one idea just to be helpful here, many are the sorrows of the wicked, steadfast love surrounds the one who trusts in the Lord. We could say, just that those who trust in God are surrounded by steadfast love. Those who are wicked are not. They're surrounded by sorrow, right? So these are two realities for two different kinds of people. What does this statement about the wicked and the righteous, those who trust in the Lord rather, what does this statement have to do? How does it connect to the rest of the chapter? David's talked about confessing sin, not covering it. He's talked about repenting and running to God as a hiding place, right? So you might find a connection between all those different ideas in the previous verses and this specific verse right here, if there's no immediate connection. And then maybe by tracing it out a little farther, you'll see, oh, that's how verse 10 connects to verse 9, because you'll see it all in context. So let me emphasize this, that for the wicked, okay, that's one kind of person. They have many sorrows. But for the one who trusts in the Lord, they have steadfast love that surrounds them. So obviously, what we have here are two different individuals. You have the wicked, person number one. You have the one who trusts in the Lord, person number two. What we should ask is, well, first of all, this word "but" right here. When you read the Bible, you notice a "but," highlight it, circle it, draw a square around it, pay attention to it. It's noting a transition, or at least in this case, a contrast. So we have the wicked being contrasted, meaning there's a difference between the two that's being noted. The wicked and those who trust in the Lord. So it's on us to meditate on this scripture and ask, hey, this word "but," it notes a contrast, obviously. What's the difference between the wicked and those who trust in the Lord? Well, first of all, their experience. The wicked is surrounded by sorrows. The steadfast love of God surrounds those who trust in the Lord. So that's the obvious, difference. A second thing we should ask is, what makes this person wicked? What's the basis by which they're labeled as wicked? What's the basis by which this person trusts in the Lord? What are they trusting in God for? What are they trusting in God to do? These are questions that we should ask when we read the Bible. Instead of assuming, just some general trusting. Well, what are they trusting in God to do or trusting in God for? What does it mean to trust? Look up the Hebrew word for this and look at other places where the word trust is used, right? Why is steadfast love surrounding here the imagery we're given? Almost like, just a wall that surrounds a city. Think of other places where in the scriptures where you've read about something surrounding something else. We read about God surrounding his people in the Bible. We read about, in Israel's history, they have a wall that surrounds, or Jerusalem, surrounded by a wall. You talk about the faithfulness of God that surrounds his people. So you can think about, hey, I've seen other places in the Bible where something surrounds something else, right? And then think about how that might bring clarity to what's happening here. Another question you might ask is, and these are questions that I want to teach you how to learn how to ask, is why the language of surrounding? The wicked doesn't have that language explicitly used of their reality. There's nothing surrounding, just that there's many sorrows for them. Verse 11, okay, is the next verse, last verse in chapter 32 of Psalms. It says, be glad in the Lord. Okay, be glad in the Lord. I'm not sure if you can see this. Hopefully you can. And rejoice, O righteous, and shout for joy, all you upright in heart. So what we have here is a continuation of the description of those who trust in God. So let's think about the way David is describing those who trust in the Lord. What I'm going to do is take my yellow highlighter, and I'm going to highlight, and this is what I encourage you to do when you read the Bible. What I see here is I see a list of descriptions of the one who trusts in the Lord, right? They're called righteous. They're called upright in heart. They're told, I'll tell you two things. They're told to be glad. They're told to rejoice. They're told to shout for joy. So therein lies more of a list. These are just two ideas, but if you connect it to the one who trusts in the Lord, then you have a clear list of descriptions. This person trusts in God. They're righteous. They're upright in heart. Now you're getting a clear picture of why they are those who trust in the Lord, contrasted with the wicked. So not only are their realities different, but the wicked and the one who trusts in the Lord, they have different experiences. But the wicked here is not going to be righteous. The wicked here is not going to be upright in heart. The wicked here does not trust in the Lord, right? So that's an obvious difference between these two people, is the wicked chooses not to trust in God. But David's going to address those who trust in the Lord and continue with, talking to that person. So when we see a list like this, 3 actions, 3 commands, you might say, or 3 encouragements. Shout for joy, rejoice, be glad. There's 3 different ideas in one verse that the righteous are told to do, or those who trust in the Lord. So it's on us to connect them and say, hey, I'm going to pull it here so you can see it clearer. I might ask, hey, what similarities do they, S-I-M-I, I really have to say that out loud. I probably still spelled it wrong, don't judge me. And what are the differences between those ideas, if any? This is what I do when I read a list, when I notice a list in Scripture. Sometimes it's a list of people. Sometimes it's a list of ideas or places. Sometimes it's a list of, actions or adjectives of describing an event or person or situation, right? So take note of that. When you see a list, you're like, interesting. In one verse or in 2 verses, I see a list developing. What does this tell me? What do they have in common? What are the differences between these ideas? And then notice that the wicked, they're not called to do this, right? This is for those who trust in the Lord, because the wicked have sorrows. And so these are just a few, helpful tips I would encourage you to start to really implement in your personal Bible study, like asking questions, noticing lists, connecting ideas and verses, going beyond just the immediate preceding verse and go into the rest of the chapter. These are ideas or skills, rather, that get developed as you read the Bible. So I hope this was helpful. Go check out our free 40-day Bible study program linked in the description below if you have not already, or at abovereproachministry.com, and I'll see you guys in the next Bible study walkthrough.